day, folks. Thank you for coming to watch this panel with these three fine gentlemen. To make it very easy, they're going to be talking about collecting in the hobby. But before we get there, I want to get a little intro from each of you. So, Chris, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Chris Sewall. I have a YouTube channel, Baseball Card Collector Investor Dealer. I've been in the hobby as a collector, investor, and dealer for about 30 years.
Awesome. Jeremy, tell me about yourself and your nickname.
My nickname is the Texas Snowman, ironically. It doesn't really snow there. But I'm also on Chris's channel and starting an auction house called Collector Investor Auctions, CIA for short.
Awesome. And now there's another Jeremy who's also as tall as the Texas Snowman. Why don't you tell me a bit about yourself?
Thank you, Amit. Wow, this is loud. My name's Jeremy Lee. I have a YouTube channel and a podcast called Sports Cards Live because I do live streaming. Lots of interviews, collecting in the hobby since 1980. I used to open up the O-Pee-Chee packs every year, building the base sets. Don't really do that anymore. The hobby's changed a lot over the past 35, 40 years, but I'm immersed in the hobby. I love the hobby. Sports cards is a lifestyle. That's one of my taglines. Thanks for having me, Amit.
Pardon me?
Thank you for having me.
Hey, no problem. And thank you three for letting me interview you at the last minute.
In Jeremy Lee's intro, he has a song that plays over the song, and Sports Cards is that the title of the song? Sports Cards is a lifestyle. It repeats that over and over.
Yeah,
Sports Cards is a lifestyle.
Sports Cards is a lifestyle. Yeah. A buddy of mine wrote the song, performed it, did the video. If you go to Sports Cards Live on YouTube, you can listen to the song. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, I know you're a content creator. What is your intro song?
I got no intro song. I'm very, very bland with the intro. I just say my name, Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer, in that order. That's my whole intro. It takes about 3 seconds.
Takes about 3 seconds. And for you, Jeremy, you told me you're doing an auction. Like, how would you start off the auction? Like, what is your intro? What is your stage walk-up song?
I think I need to hire a band to make one for me.
Inagata Devita.
Oh, excellent. Yes. It's like 13 minutes long. I like it.
The Snowman's a drummer, so he can write his own intro song.
Oh, that's awesome. We're going to go back to Chris for a second. You're a content creator, so tell us a little bit about what the type of content you create, what got you into it, and how it's going from here.
Yeah, my content's mostly informative. I like to try to educate and inform people about how to be a better collector, investor, or dealer in the hobby, whatever path you want to choose. And yeah, I sort of share my experiences as those three things and sort of give advice to others. Not really advice, but guidance if people choose to use it for how to collect, invest, or deal.
So what are some of the highlights of your content creation where you had a chance to kind of help out someone in the hobby and it's reciprocated back to you? My favorite repeating segment is called Regular Rollers, and this is where viewers send in purchases they made on usually on eBay, but it can be on any number of platforms, and they say, hey, I bought this card for $12, and what do you think? And I kind of say, oh, that's a great buy, or that's an easy card to find, and I sort of give advice, or they tell me the story of why they bought it, and then I'll give them advice or guidance on what I thought of the purchase and what I thought of the card. That happens every other week.
Amit, we've got another addition to the panel, Tory Rike. Trike, also a content creator.
So
welcome to the panel, Troy.
So we'll pivot really quickly, so hand the mic over to Troy. So why don't you tell everyone here who you are and what you do?
My name is Troy. I have a YouTube channel called Trike 415. I go to a lot of card shows, try to make content of it. And yeah, I do sports cards for a living, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you very much for that. So as I was asking Chris, I'm going to put it to you really quickly, and soon I'll ask you the same question, Jeremy, but back to you, Troy. What are some of the highlights of the content you've created and some of the relationships you've made in the industry?
I would say the first one is just when people come up to me in real life and say it's helped them in any way, right? It's entertain them, or someone, once in a while, I'm wrong way more often than I'm right, but once in a while I'm right about a prospect or maybe like something with PSA grading. They're like, yo, that really helped me. Yeah. And that means the world. But I would say a lot of it too is just the memories and doing things I wouldn't have done if it wasn't for the content, right? Like being out here in Toronto, meeting Mikey, meeting everyone, meeting all you guys here has been great. Or I just did a really fun video with my girlfriend, we opened a pack of cards, and whatever the last card we pulled was, we flew and went and saw that NBA game. So just, you know, I try to have fun with it, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, this is my full-time job now, but just the experiences and the fun has just been priceless, honestly.
That's a very interesting thing you did, pulling Alaska and traveling. I like that. You should
check it out. I got my free plug-in already, so this is why I'm the best in the business.
So you must open up a pack and came to Toronto. Anyway, we'll leave that there. I'm going to hand the mic here to Jeremy. Tell me a little bit about you said you're getting into the auctioning business. Tell us a little bit about that and how it's going.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of a beta test right now where we're just testing all the features and functions of the auction and consignor contracts, just how it flows and everything. And so far, it's not had any glitches or anything, so it's looking good. So we're going to be launching next month. And I think really what inspired it is the name of it itself, Collector Investor Auctions, obviously directly derived from what Chris does on the channel and the content that he does. And we just kind of put our heads together and thought we have a lot of inventory. Yep. A lot of people clearly trust us that we're honest and, you know, just guys that love the industry and like helping people. You know what I mean? So we just created this entity for people to go and collectively go and buy or sell their cards and comics and have fun doing it.
Awesome, awesome. Now over to Jeremy at Sports Cards Live. We've been friends for so long and doing this for so long. Tell me about the evolution about your channel, where it started, where it's going from, and where you're going for in the future.
Sure. I mean, I started in April 2020 with the very first interview that I did. I wanted, you know, I've been collecting since 1980, and I wanted to appeal to more than just the hockey segment of the hobby. So the first interview I did, I brought on an industry titan named Carvin Chung, who has conceived some of the most important brands in the hobby that I'd collected as well. And it's been 4 years now, over 500 live streams, and I just continue. I intend to keep going. I don't plan to stop. I love doing it. You know, in line with the title of this session, collecting in the hobby, I think it's important for all of us that do content to appeal to the collectors, because it's one thing to just sell cards all the time, and that is a ton of fun. But there's and I want to hear, like, from all three of you guys, if I may, like, I get so much satisfaction when I sell or trade a card to somebody at my vendor booth or over online or wherever, and they walk away loving that card that they just picked up, and you can tell that they're collecting it and they enjoy it, and it's going to be in their collection for a long time. It's such a nice feeling when that happens. It transcends the commerce of it all. It transcends here's a card, here's the money. Like, there's a lot of that going on out there, and I think a lot of people probably just approach it that way. But when you place a card into somebody's real collection, it's gratifying. I feel it to be very gratifying, and I'm curious if they feel the same way, and you too, Amit.
That's a very good segue. So let's go with the Texas Snowman. I want to give us your perspective on what Jeremy just talked about.
I feel the same way, absolutely. Like, I've had people come up and buy big cards, inexpensive cards, whatever, and they're like, I'm never selling this because of the story. I watched y'all's channel. I bought it from you. It's going right here next to this one, and you have visitation rights. I'll bring it next time I come down. So negotiated visitation rights, because I loved the card too, because, you know, I had transitioned it out of my own personal collection or something like that sometimes, you know. But I just really enjoy like basically exactly what Jeremy said. Like, I really enjoy the buying aspect of it, hearing the story, and as far as collecting myself personally, I prefer to collect what I buy in collections because there's a story behind it, right? Like, nothing wrong with going on eBay and buying a card or something, and I do that too, but I really enjoy keeping that card because I remember how I got it. You know what I mean? I really enjoy that part of it as well.
And the passion is what unites us all, right? That's the key in it. So I'd like to ask Troy, why don't you share your perspective on that as well?
On getting cards into collectors' hands.
Correct.
And that.
Correct.
So that one's, I'm going to take this a slightly different direction, because that's really a tough one. I can relate with Jeremy. That's the best feeling, you know, getting a card into someone's collection, someone walking away happy from a deal. I think a lot of times people do just enjoy, oh, I've seen this guy on YouTube. It's great to make a deal with him. Something that I've kind of struggled with, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts as well, is that is such a good feeling, and I almost feel like a responsibility to the people I'm dealing with that potentially I wouldn't if I wasn't on YouTube. Of course, we all want to be stand up and fair with people, but I'm like, oh man, like, you know, you want to, we as dealers, at least I'll speak for myself, you want to have the best margin possible. You want to get good deals, but I'm like, oh, I really hope this person didn't walk away from this being like, oh, I hate that guy now. Like, that was an unfair, maybe even at the time, right? They're like, oh, I'm so happy about this deal. They might go home and it's not like it was unfair, but they're like, oh man, like, I shouldn't have done that. He steered me this way. So it's that joy is so amazing, but it also comes almost with a negative for me because I'm like, oh boy, like, I feel that, I want every single person to walk away feeling that and having a good impression of me. And then sometimes a couple times I'm just like, why are you even beating yourself up about this? It's tough, that kind of duality there.
The one flip side that you're actually putting yourself out there, so there's a lot of courage in doing so. So I respect that, and I think a lot of people do. So there's nothing wrong with that. So kudos to all of you for doing this kind of stuff. Chris, over to you to kind of answer the same question. Then we'll change the trajectory of questioning after.
Yeah, so my name is Collector Investor Dealer, and I say in that order, and that's for this exact reason. Today I'm a full dealer. I don't really collect anymore, just a tiny bit. I'm a full-time dealer. But the point of Collector Investor Dealer in that order is the mentality. Like, I think I want to always think in terms of the collector first. And so, yeah, any transaction I'm making, I want to always have the collector in mind. And yeah.
And also I know Jeremy's from Canada, so I want to ask you this question, but for the rest of you, and I'll start off with you, Chris. Is this your first time in Canada?
No, not my first time in Canada. First time at this show, though, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your experience at this show compared to shows that you've done in the U.S.
Yeah, well, so very, very caught off guard by how big it was. I knew it was big, and I've been told that a million times, but yeah, you don't really believe it till you see it. I think it's the second biggest show in the world behind the National. I don't know if there's like numbers to back that up. Does anybody know?
It is.
It is.
Square footage wise, I think attendance wise, it's definitely the second biggest.
Agreed.
By square footage and attendance?
I think so.
I mean, that's amazing, right? Like, you wouldn't think the second biggest show in the world is in Toronto, but here it is. And so yeah, by that aspect's very impressive. There's a lot of hockey, which is not surprising. A lot more hockey than at American shows. There's also a lot more. We mentioned this yesterday. There's a lot less graded cards in general, I would say. Percentage-wise, there's a lot of raw stuff, but yeah, those are the two biggest things of note that I noticed. The show's amazing, no question.
And what are your highlights? If you could pick a couple of highlights from this experience, what would you say those were being?
For highlights from the show?
Correct.
I don't know. I mean, walking around I didn't get a whole lot of time to walk around the main hall, but yeah, insane. And the hallway, just getting between the two halls is just it's a mosh pit, which is kind of fun.
I think you forgot one of the highlights, Chris. Having dinner with me last night was quite a highlight for you, no?
Yeah, that was all right.
That's what he meant.
No, that was amazing. That was amazing, yes.
And just to give it one more question to you, Chris, and I'm going to ask the same question to all three of you. So what is your impression of the Bedard craze as a collector, investor, dealer?
As a what?
The Connor Bedard phase. Are you at all inspired?
So hockey is not my area of expertise. You're asking the wrong guy on that.
That's the wrong guy, so I'll save that for Jeremy.
Yeah.
You can hand it over to Troy. Troy, is this your first time in Canada?
It's my first time in Toronto. I've been to Vancouver once before, but basically, yeah, my first experience.
But first time at the Sport Card Expo?
Yeah.
So give us your top three highlights of the show so far.
Well, actually, my first highlight is going off your Bedard question. This morning, I went to Tim Hortons, bought one pack, and I pulled a Bedard Upper Deck rookie. So,
wow.
I mean, can't beat that. I mean, the pack is $1 Canadian, so I think I'm looking good. But yeah, it's been great. My only time before, I'd been to a card show in London before, and it was a completely different world than a U.S. card show. I understand, obviously, Toronto is a lot closer, and it's not quite as big of a contrast. But if it wasn't for, there being more hockey and the conversion and talking in Canadian dollars and stuff, like, this feels like just like a big U.S. show to me. It's been amazing. There's a lot more American football and basketball and soccer and stuff than I would have expected, and it's just a huge show. Everyone here has been so nice and just been great. Highlights, I don't know. It's hard to top that Bedard rookie from Tim Hortons, so I'm just going to stick with that one.
You made a lot of Canadians jealous that we spent oodles of time going to Tim Hortons trying to pull that card, so kudos to you for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So over to you, Texas. I like calling you the Texas Snowman. It's such a catchy name, and I don't know if I'll ever call you your real name, just to be.
I'm used to it. It's okay.
Question over to you again. Is this your first time in the Sport Card Expo in Toronto?
I've been to Canada on my honeymoon on a cruise, but I've never been to Toronto, and I've never been to this show. And immediately when I got here, like, because Chris had told me go to entrance 4, and I'm like, okay, I guess it's kind of big, because I mean, I'd heard it was a big show, but he's like, be sure to go to entrance 4, like that was important, or I'm going to walk forever. And I was like, okay. So I go. So we're driving past, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is massive. It's so spread out, So I would say my biggest thing with this one is like, vendors shows in the States minus the national would kill for this much room. Like, and I was surprised how spread out it is too, because like in the States there would not be hardly any like concrete with nothing on it. Like they would just pack it, just packed. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of cool actually that there's enough room to walk around, because like Chris was saying, it's a mosh pit in the main hall. It's insane. So many people. So I was very impressed by the health of the hobby in Toronto. It was very good to see that. Very good to see that.
So now going over to, thank you for that, again, Texas Snowman. I'm going to go over to this Jeremy here. So Jeremy, you've been in the hobby for such a long time. You've gone to national, you've been to many shows. Hearing what these guys have had to say, what is your experience in terms of your highlights of this show over the last few years?
Well, the growth of the show, the expansion into the halls 3 and 4, the addition of the stage. And having these guys here, I got to tell you, like I've seen all these guys at card shows before. Well, Chris and Troy I've seen at card shows numerous times now. And the highlight for me is, the cards are great, but again, collecting in the hobby is more than just collecting now. It's a community, it's relationships, it's seeing guys like Todd McDonald over here coming out to the show, the guys that you see show after show that you wouldn't know if you weren't here. As content creators, I think we have an advantage because people know us, so they come and say hi. That gives us the advantage of getting the ability to make more friends, to meet more people. Pretty fortunate that we get to do that, and then becoming friends amongst ourselves is the highlight for me. So furthering seeing you. I mean, we've been setting up beside each other here now for, I don't know, 15 plus years.
Yes, we have.
I see you twice a year, but that's more than I see a lot of my friends back where I live in Calgary. Yep. I see you more than I see a lot of my friends back home. So the highlight for me is always seeing the people, furthering these relationships, strengthening friendships, learning what's going on with each other. We have this common love for this hobby and these cards, and it's really been transcended into more than just the cards, and that's definitely a highlight for me.
Awesome. Texas Snowman, back to you.
If I may, the highlight of my show is seeing Jeremy Lee.
We got to hug it out now. Everyone's got to hug it out. Okay, so talking about collecting in the hobby, and everyone's always asking you the million-dollar question, what's next, what's coming? I'm going to put you all on the spot a little bit here. Where do you think, and I'm going to go with you, Jeremy, because I have not talked to you as much as the other fellas. Where do you think the hobby's going in the next 5 years?
Oh, that's a great question. I think there's been so much evolution. By evolution, I mean in terms of the infrastructure of the hobby, all the services involved, the shows, with Fanatics and their stranglehold on basketball, football, baseball moving forward. We're kind of lucky Canadians, if you are, as far as hockey collectors, that we still have Upper Deck, because I love Upper Deck cards. So I feel really lucky that we're not forced to only have Topps or Panini. Nothing against those companies. They make nice products some of the time. I love that. So what I don't want to see happen is Fanatics take over hockey. That would be somewhat devastating, I think. We'd lose so many great brands. But I think, with the advent of online shopping, live shopping, YouTube content, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all blowing up in the hobby, I think with the increasing amount of connectivity between collectors, you're going to see more and more companies started, like CIA Auctions as an example. I think that we're just going to see more and more of that, and hopefully it elevates the hobby to a point where, like, I remember in the early 90s, everybody collected cards. everybody, every human in North America collected cards, it seems like, in the early 90s. Will we get back there? I don't know, but I hope we can because we love this hobby, and I think we think other people would love it too. So hopefully more and more people get exposed and join us.
That's great, and I appreciate your perspective, and also appreciate the perspective that I've known you for so long, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, right? So, Jeremy, where do you see the hobby going in the next 5 years?
I think it's just, compared to back, 80s, 90s, and even before, it's so easy to get connected with what you want, right? If you want a specific card that's hard to find, it's not as hard to find anymore. You know what I mean? So I think that there's going to be a lot more networking amongst not only collectors but dealers as well. And hey, I have a client that needs this. I have a customer that really needs this card. Do you have it? And it's just a healthy network, I would say, of people that really work well together and finding items for people's personal collections and also outlets to sell them at. Also, I mean, there's so many outlets they can choose from, and certain outlets are better for certain things too, right? So I just think it's so much easier now to be a collector and an investor and liquidate than ever before. And I think that's just going to continue to rise. And ways to sell your own cards too, if you wanted to do that.
And thank you for that. So I'm actually going to ask Troy the same question. Where do you see the hobby evolving in 5 years from now?
Yeah, I talked about it a little bit in a previous panel, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how all the different marketplaces and auction houses and grading companies and just things seem to be shifting a lot. So it'll be very interesting to see how the hobby landscape looks like that in 5 years. But I mean, I think the biggest change is obviously Fanatics, right? Like that's what everyone's talking about, 10xing the hobby. For me, I'm not necessarily sold that we're gonna 10x the hobby, but at least from my understanding, the mainstream marketing and stuff just hasn't been there previously. I haven't really seen it, so my kind of takeaway from that is I don't know, once again, how effective it'll be in 10xing the hobby, but the leagues have an incentive now. I don't know how that doesn't at least bring in some new people to the hobby. So there's a lot of other stuff that can happen, but I do think 5 years from now, I guess that's my mini hot take, not really one, but there's going to be a lot more people in the hobby. I'd be surprised if that's not the case.
So on a more personal level, how do you see your channel growing? How do you want to evolve that?
Ooh, how do I see my channel growing? I don't know. I'm still, that's something I'm really trying to figure out because I really love some of the, like I've been doing the card show vlog content and stuff like that. I mean, that's something for sure. I think it's going to look a lot different. It's not necessarily just going to be card show vlog content. I've been getting excited lately by trying different things, right? Like that pack travel video and a bunch of different things. It's definitely going to be a lot, but I just want to keep trying new things, doing different type of content. At least for me personally, I try to just do stuff maybe that people haven't seen before. So that'd be my hope. Who knows? I don't know if I've necessarily been the best at it, but that's my goal 5 years from now, trying different things.
I say you're doing a pretty good job on your channel, so I wouldn't worry too much. I have a high faith that you'll carry it forward.
I appreciate that.
I'm going to hand it over to Chris. Same question.
Yeah, Troy's channel is definitely going to grow. Easily one of the most entertaining and excellent channels out there. So that's a guarantee. In terms of the hobby, yeah, I think it's going to grow. I'm just sort of piggybacking off of what everyone said. Like I don't think it's the same in the 90s when things really fell off and we saw a steady decline. I don't think it's that anymore. I think there's so many more options for everybody in the hobby. There's a million things to do. You can post your cards on Facebook. You can share your cards on Instagram. You can go on a million different websites. I wish I had all that as a kid. When I was a kid, all I could do was trade with my friends, and that was basically it. So I think the hobby is going to be very strong for a while, for as long as it wants to be.
And then back over to my friend Jeremy here. So in terms of like, where do you see yourself with the auction business? How do you see yourself evolving? Once it gets going, do you see anything crazy happening? And what's your thoughts on that?
I think the way it's going to evolve is just in people seeing that, the cards are displayed accurately, right? If it's VG, it's VG. It's displayed accurately. We want to treat every customer like royalty, seriously. Like, hey, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing this. And just being able to buy and bid in confidence and sell in confidence that it's going to be listed in a way that's respectable for the card, for the item. Yeah.
Awesome. So I have a question. Like you content creators seem to get together and talk amongst yourselves. Do you guys find a real camaraderie being able to consult with each other because you're all content creators in your own realm? Jeremy, I'm going to give that question to you.
I really do. I love talking with and meeting with and brainstorming, even coming up with collaboration ideas with other content creators, having them as guests on my show, on my YouTube channel, my Saturday night live interview show. It's just so much fun. I often say, like, I'm one of the luckiest guys in the hobby because I get to meet so many people. And when I have somebody on my show, I don't just say, okay, I'll see you there at 10 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. I say, let's get together on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, the day but leading up. Let's get to know each other, build some rapport, so that we can have I can really like exploit the opportunity of having them on my show to the maximum. I want to get everything out of them that I can, so that the audience can get to know them. I think one of the best ways to expand your opportunities, your knowledge is by listening to other people's perspectives. We all have so much to learn from so many people because there's an infinite number of ways to approach this hobby, and somebody who you might not have expected could have an influence on you by telling you one thing they did sometime might really maybe not change completely, but can certainly enhance your experience in the hobby. So yeah, working with other content creators, encouraging them. I think we are a fraternity, and I'm certainly happy and proud to be a part of it.
Awesome. I'm going to go to Chris this time to answer the same question.
Yeah, like I had no aspirations to be a YouTuber, but I found camaraderie with other YouTubers. There's just a lot of experiences as a YouTuber that most people, it's hard to relate to, like comments and negative comments and things like that. So getting together with other YouTubers and being able to talk that out, it's really, really nice.
And then over to Troy.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's one of my favorite things about coming to these shows and talking with guys like we have here on the stage is because, sometimes I feel a little left out. Like my friends will be in the group chat and they'll be like, oh, I PTO and here's how you stay active on Microsoft Teams so your boss doesn't know you're away, and like they just can't. Outside of these card shows, there's no one who can really relate to exactly what I'm doing, and there's not that many of us. I mean, honestly, especially that are doing it full time and traveling to shows and stuff. I mean, 20, 25 maybe. So just having these experiences and talking to people who can relate to what I'm going to. Sometimes I think I even am a little bit too anxious for it. Like I'll be like just pouring my heart out and have you gone through this, blah blah blah, with people I just met because I don't get to talk about it all the time. So. And I think everyone understands that, and these guys, even though we haven't talked too long, it just feels like there's that immediate connection because we're some of the few people I don't want to say going through, like everyone said, we have one of the best jobs in the world, but just having very similar experiences.
It's interesting because I did dabble in this space for a little while. I took some time away, but as a person, questioning you guys, you guys are all the amazing content creators, but to ask you guys questions that you guys haven't already talked about, I find it challenging, right? It's like, what have I asked? What have they already talked about? So I'm sitting here thinking, going through the permutations, like, what is it I can talk to these guys about? So I want to do something quite a bit different. Instead of me asking a question here, I want to know, Chris, what's a question you want to ask the guys here that you didn't actually discuss already in your walks?
Sorry, what do I want to ask somebody here?
Correct.
Oh, that is a good one. Well, so I'll ask. Yeah, did the two of you have like aspirations to be YouTubers, or did you just sort of stumble into that?
Well, for me, there is a story to why I did my first YouTube video, and it wasn't what I set out to do like the month before when I got the YouTube channel name. I thought I was going to offer people a place to live stream cards for sale. I went on Facebook one day and I wanted to sell some cards, but I didn't want to I didn't want to scan them or photograph them and coin them and all these things so I thought, well, if I just show them. And so that was the genesis of the Sports Cards Live brand. But then when I got the YouTube channel, I thought, well, I'll just go live and bring on an interview guest. It wasn't until that first show was done that I realized, okay, now I got to get someone to interview the next time. So who am I going to call now? So I would say I did not set out to be a YouTuber, but that's what I became. I don't really even know, like I know how it happened, but I could not have predicted it at all. I did not set out.
So I will say one thing, having gone through what you guys have gone through, I did it for about a year. The setup, so all you guys know, the work behind the scenes, there's a lot of work networking, getting the questions, making sure your content makes sense. So these guys do a lot of work behind the scenes. So kudos to them for doing that. But again, I'm going to put Troy on the spot here. Everyone always asks you guys the questions. Well, you guys probably won't get a chance to ask the question. Troy, what's the question you'd like to ask one of the guys here?
Oh man, I messed up. I was ready to answer that question and not necessarily to give one.
You can if you want. You can answer and then ask.
Is there any way you can come back to me?
I will come back to you.
Okay.
So why don't you answer the question that you were going to answer in the first place?
Oh boy. Well, okay. So I was going to answer that. I was just going to say that when I started out, I definitely did not have aspirations to be a YouTuber. You know, I hear certain people are getting into it now, and they're talking about YouTube is a sales marketing funnel to sell cards. And I was bored in the Philippines. I was overseas, and I didn't have access to my cards, so that's why I started. But it's funny. It's definitely flipped now. I find so much joy in YouTube. I would say, you know, like entertaining and stuff like that, that is really one of my long-term focuses right now. Like putting out a good piece of content, for me personally, like that I get more joy out of that than like a big flip or something like that.
Okay.
So that's why I'm really trying to focus on that and just have fun.
Awesome. Jeremy, same question to you. Is there a question that you've been wanting to ask the guys on this panel here, like something that's burning in your mind that you haven't talked about already, that someone here can answer?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, you know, just real quick, I mean, the beautiful thing about what we do is, like, we don't view each other as, like, competition. Like, we work together more than anything, you know what I mean? But I would say, what's your fondest moment that you've had for you and Troy? Like, what's y'all's fondest moment that you've had? Maybe something that a subscriber said, or maybe something that happened from one of your videos that meant a lot to somebody, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna take the easy way out of this and say when I started, by the time I did about my 20th show, I've done almost 550 shows now. By the time I did my 20th, I was finally getting to the point where I wasn't having butterflies the day leading up to going live. You know, I only do live streams. Nothing I do is pre-recorded and edited. So there is a bit of nerves when you're going live, because, you know, if you mess up, there's no retakes. That's it. But I was episode number 30 on my show was a big milestone. It's funny to think, because that's, you know, 5% of what I've done now. But I was very excited to have Dr. James Beckett as my guest for episode 30. I grew up in the 80s. Buying, reading, studying, consuming Beckett magazine. I spent years on the Beckett message boards in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, and the name Beckett was synonymous to the hobby for me. So having the man behind the brand on my show with me, and then finding out later through another industry veteran named Rich Klein, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with, who's told me that Dr. Beckett considers you the gold standard in hobby interviews. Talk about, like, you know, feeling pretty good. That was a huge highlight. To have earned Dr. Beckett's respect was an early highlight for me that continues to make me feel good to this day.
This is great. So I'm glad I went down this road. So I'm going to go back to you, Troy. Did you come up with a question that you want to ask anybody on the panel here?
Yeah, I do have a question, and
Go
it's
for
a completely a selfish one. How, if you're in an Uber or you guys meet someone at a party, how do you describe what you do? Because that's actually like that's honestly the question I want the most answer to, because I'm like, I can't explain this whole thing. I was like, I don't want to lie either. I genuinely do not know what to say when someone asks me, what do you do for a living?
I totally have fun with it. I just say I say I'm a social media influencer, and then just see where the conversation goes. I don't consider myself an influencer at all, but I just like saying that to see where the conversation goes.
And I completely stumble. I don't know. It's like, what do I do? Well, I interview people, and I do other shows besides my interviews. I do provide marketing services to some auction companies in the space. And so I kind of say I'm in marketing. I'm an accountant. I had a 25-year career as a CPA, and I don't lead with that because I'm not as proud of that as I am to be involved in the hobby. This is where the passion is. So I basically say, you know, I I work in the sports card industry, and I provide entertainment and marketing. Sir, it's awkward to answer, Troy. Even right now, I'm not feeling comfortable describing it. So I need to work on my elevator pitch, and maybe we could workshop that together.
The other thing I do sometimes, so my wife is, she works at a university, and she's a microbiologist, and she's PhDs and all that. So I'm often at parties with a lot of high degree people, and when they come up and say, what do you do? I just say, oh, I play with baseball cards for a living.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, this is a great question. I appreciate their perspectives. We're in the hobby, since you guys are content creators and you're in the hobby in a big way, do you ever have anyone who's affluent that's actually come to you and asked you for, Chris, go back to you. Have you had a celebrity or someone who has affluence to ask you advice, like how to present a hobby?
Sorry, I couldn't hear because of the...
We'll just give it a minute. Have you ever had someone affluent or a prominent person or a celebrity come and ask you for advice to what to do in the hobby?
Yeah, so last night, Jeremy Lee asked me some advice about his channel. So major celebrity there. And I don't know. No, I don't think I've had a notable celebrity come up to me. No.
I once had the guy. There's a collector who owns the Fitbit bracelets. The guy who founded that company. He's reached out to me on Instagram before. DJ Ski is a prominent DJ influencer in the U.S. He's from Minnesota originally. He sent me an unsolicited message on Instagram one time saying, "Love what you do, keep it up." And I wasn't too familiar with who he was, but I looked it up. He's somewhat of a celebrity, so that was kind of. I've had Gary Vee on my show. That was a big name to get. So, yeah, I mean, these guys didn't necessarily ask me for advice, but they provided me with support and encouragement. And to be honest, that's better than them asking me for advice.
Awesome. What about you, Jeremy? Anything of that nature with you?
As far as celebrity-wise, I don't think so. Can't think of any.
No. Troy, I know you're big into the basketball stuff. So what about you? I'm expecting maybe you've had some people come to you for advice.
Yeah, a good, like a lot of, not a lot, but a few like professional athletes have reached out to help them with some stuff, and that's been really big. A couple some rappers, like some smaller rappers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it's been cool. I've connected with some amazing people, but probably my best story, the Gary Vee thing really popped it up into my mind. Before I was doing this full time, I started a sales job, and it was like cold calling, and I hated it. I was the worst at it, and I was sitting in the phone booth with like literally my head in my hands. I was like, I cannot pick up the phone. I can't do it. Like, I'm done with this. I don't know what to do with my life. What am I doing? And literally my phone was right there, and then it said, Gary Vee has requested DM you. Like literally in that exact moment. And then he was like, he's like, I love your content, blah, blah, hope to see you at the National, all this stuff. And I was like, dude, the timing of it literally was, I was like, this is like a sign or something. And then I left that job like a week later. So him believing in me and connecting with him was a really big turning point in my life.
That's awesome. And I'm going to probably ask one or two more questions. So back to you. I'm going to start off with you again, Troy. What is your bucket list moment you crossed off the list? And what is your bucket list item that you still have yet to achieve?
Bucket list item. I would say I don't think one particular one comes to mind, but when I first got into this, one of my dreams was to travel the world doing cards, and being able to do that, going to London, Toronto, everywhere around the U.S. I mean, that's one of the specific things I really wanted to do. So I really enjoyed that. Going forward, I'm such a big sports fan. I love sports. If I could ever do any type of collaboration with like a sports team, that would be the biggest thing in the world, right? Like even just something that's like opening packs at the SF Giants Stadium or something like that. If I ever did something like that, that would be the peak.
So Jeremy Lee, besides having me on your show as a bucket list item crossed off, what are some other things that you crossed off the list of yours and still have yet to achieve?
Well, I got to cross a good one off yesterday, sitting right where you are. And actually, I sat here, and Teemu Selanne sat right there, and I got to interview him on the stage. He's my all-time favorite professional athlete. I'm getting tired of saying that, but it's true. And that was pretty cool. That was a lot of fun for me. And what's to come? Oh, if I could sit up here with a gentleman by the name of Wayne Gretzky, I'll put that on my bucket list next. That's about, to me, that's the only thing that would maybe transcend Team Mussolani.
Awesome. For Jeremy, the Texas Snowman, knowing that you're going to get into the auction business, so that's probably checking a bucket list item off, but is there a bucket list item that you've yet to achieve?
Yeah, you know, when I never imagined that I would be where I'm at or where I'm going to be in the next few years with the auction house and with the channel and things like that, but I'm literally living my bucket. You know what I mean? I'm living my bucket. Like, to know that, because I was a professional drummer for many years, and to switch from that career fully to cards, I didn't even know that I would get to a point where I would do that and really drop my musical career. So I'm literally living my bucket moment every day and doing this for a living. This is my career now. I switched careers. So this is fun, and I think a bucket list to come is to be one of the top auction houses in the industry. I would say that would be my bucket for when that comes. Yeah.
Awesome. Final question to you, Chris. A bucket list item you've crossed off the list and you've yet to achieve.
Yeah, no, Jeremy's answer is perfect there. With the living the bucket list already, I hate bosses. I don't have a boss. Never gonna have a boss again. That's how I want it. I don't want to be told to be at a building 9 to 5. I'll never do that again. So that's the bucket list. That's already checking that off already. A bucket list that I'd like to accomplish. I'll go with I'd like to meet Cal Ripken. He was my hero growing up, and meet him, interview him, meet him not in like I'm a huge fan, but meet him in like a real manner.
Awesome. This was awesome. Actually, this is a bucket list moment for me. I never got a chance to do a panel, so I got a panel with you fine gentlemen, so thank you for that. I've watched all your content, so I appreciate that. Thank you for coming out and sharing your experiences with the hobby. And do you have any final words, Jeremy?
No, just thanks, Amit. Great job.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
No problem. This was great.